As you guys know, I have been on an Imperial Fist binge for a couple of months now, working on both a new Heresy Legion Imperial Fist and a new Warhammer 40k Imperial Fist army simultaneously. It has been a wild ride full of yellow and tears, but we're making progress and things are starting to look awesome. We got our new Lysander done and a bunch of other units, but obviously when this box set became available, I knew I had to get my grubby little mitts on it and of course paint all the miniatures inside bright yellow and have Lysander leading a whole host of new Terminators. This box set was very kindly sent to me by Underworld Gaming, the kind of primo independent stockist here in Ireland. If you want to check those guys out, they are linked down in the description below. If you want to get your Warhammer kind of next day in Ireland, save yourself a bunch of cash. It's also got primo place to play card games, play kind of D&D sessions, huge gaming halls for tournaments. It really is an awesome place and you should definitely check it out. So once again, a big thank you to those guys for that. So I'm going to take one of the new Assault Terminators with Thunderhammer and Storm Shield, painted up my Imperial Fist color scheme and have it stand next to Lysander. That will be the first of, well, 15 guys. Before I get into it though, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons and everyone out there supporting me by watching my videos, liking my videos, commenting, and of course making sure that you subscribed. You guys are obviously all awesome. Patreon people are of course keeping the lights on and the cameras rolling. So for those guys, I do a whole host of extra things, like you get extra videos, you get a podcast, you get access to a private Discord server, we do kind of weekly hangouts, and then on top of all of those things, we do monthly giveaways. We gave away a Night Titan last month, and this month we are giving away a kind of real Space Raiders. So if anyone's ever interested in getting started with a Dark Eldar army, this is an awesome box set to get started with, and I'll be sending this to one local patron anywhere in the world at the end of this month. So if you guys want to get involved, check out link below. Without further ado, let's dive in, paint some yellow. I have been waiting for new Assault Terminators ever since the launch of the Leviathan box set. As a proud Imperial Fist player, you know, the best Legion, the best Space Marine chapter, everybody knows this, it's truth, not fake news. We know that we have a certain affinity for Thunderhammer and Storm Shield Terminators, and it's obviously, it just goes hand in hand. We've been waiting for this new kit and they finally delivered to us and it's absolutely fantastic. So that paint pot that I just held up to screen there is actually a mix. It is a mix of Scragged Brown and Uriel Yellow. So it's 1 part Scragged Brown to 4 parts Uriel Yellow. It's kind of convoluted, but it is actually the base coat color for yellow that the Eavy Metal team used to paint up their own ones. So I made up a nice big pot of that and I used it to base coat all of my Imperial Fist models. This is me going in with the second coat. It usually does take 2 thin coats to get that paint kind of looking really smooth and really nice. And because kind of every other stage after this is a glaze or an edge highlight, it means that the base layer will shine through the whole way. So if you leave streaks or anything like that behind, it's going to be bad. So do make sure you get a nice clean coat on it. Then we use Scrag Brown as a glaze. So if you ever want to learn how to glaze, it's kind of a tricky thing to learn to get the right consistency of glaze. I'm still very much learning that process and struggling with it a little bit. I find it's roughly 1 part paint to 5 parts glaze gives you that kind of right consistency. A little bit more, a little bit less depending on the paint, but unfortunately it's just trial and error for you to learn how to do that. We're going to glaze this brown color into all the deepest recesses of the model, anywhere light isn't going to hit particularly well, and it's going to add that really nice undertone shade to the model. After this, we are going to go for Doom Bull Brown mixed with water to thin it down quite a lot and make a pin wash with it. And then we are going to go into all of those sharp recesses and basically paint in a thin line of this Doom Bull Brown mix into those. This will just add definition to all the different armor plates and armor panels across the piece and get everything looking just a little bit sharper before we go on to trying to brighten up that yellow. And to brighten up the yellow, we're going to go for a Uriel Yellow glaze. Once again, 1 part Uriel Yellow to 5 drops of the glaze medium. And this is basically the opposite parts to the brown is what we're aiming for. So where we kind of glazed down with the Scrag Brown, we're going to glaze up with the yellow, the higher portions of the model, anywhere where the light is going to hit, and you really want to make this thing pop. So kind of armor panels going from like kind of 1/3 of the way up the shin, all the way up to the shin. Flat panels, the back, obviously, the more bits kind of going over the shoulders, the tops of shoulder pads. Yeah, basically just the top parts of the panel. Once again, it's another kind of trial and error. The more you do it, the more you'll kind of learn which panels you should shade and which panels you should leave darker. If you get it a little bit wrong, it doesn't matter. By the time you get to the very end of painting the yellow armor with all the edge highlights in, if you make a little bit of an odd choice here or a bizarre choice there, it won't matter. It won't make a difference. Just trust yourself and finish the process. But here it is, glazed down and glazed up. You can see this really nice rich yellow tone that we have, very nicely kind of and deeply recessed shaded. Now it's time to start adding in some of those kind of sharper lines. So the first thing we're going to go for is a Uriel yellow edge highlight. I'm going to focus on this kind of cod piece here, that double armor plate thing, to show you how I edge highlight. So as you can see with the Uriel yellow, I'm doing the entire edge of the panel. So from top to bottom all the way around, every single edge on the model should get the Uriel yellow edge highlight to basically start off the process. So that's a 100% edge highlight is how I will describe kind of this step. Moving on to the second stage, which is of course the flash gets yellow, but this is what I call 80% edge highlight. So you can see that when I begin the edge, I'm not going right up to the belt buckle. It's about kind of a third of the way down and then dragged all the way down and around the panel. And it's going to be same on the next panel down. The Uriel yellow edge highlight will take the most amount of time. And then because it's 20% less, the flash kit stage will take 20% less time. And then when we go to the Dorn yellow, it's even less again and less again with the white. So you're okay. With the Dorn yellow, we go right back to about a 30% edge highlight. So you can see that I'm just going to focus on some of the kind of sharper corners of the panel and hit it with that nice Dorn yellow color. It's a perfect color between that bright yellow and where we will finish up on, which is the white. So you can see I'm just, like I said, going around those corners, a little bit up and a little bit down from each corner, and that's it. We're going to follow that through across the entire model, adding it to all those awesome armor panels across this incredible miniature. The new Terminators are actually just spectacular. I've been painting some of the old hero ones, which are obviously a lot smaller, still stunning sculpts, but this is in a league of its own for size and scale. We'll be doing some comparisons of it later on, so you will actually get to see them next to each other, and it's quite striking. And then for the white scar, it is like a 5%, if not less. It's just the very sharp tip points. That's it. Anywhere where there's a sharp corner, just get it with a tiny bit of white. That's all you need to do. And with that, you basically have a finished Imperial Fist armor panel for your model. And I think you'll agree that even looking at it right here, it looks really good. It looks really cool. We're now moving on to my favorite stage. I know it's going to be bizarre, but it's actually blocking in the black areas of the model, which will tidy up all of the yellow sections and make the model look really good. Obviously, we've been a little bit messy in some stages and it's not going to look as tidy. But once I get this black stage done very, very carefully, because obviously we have finished the yellow and we don't want to go back and try and fix any mistakes. So I've got a very small brush and a steady hand. I'm taking a deep breath. And I'm going to go in and get all of this bits blocked in with the black paint. From here, it's all about blocking in the rest of the base coat on this model, and there is quite a few steps to go through. So Screamer Pink is used for the handle of the Thunderhammer. And any and all wax seals that you want to do around the model, so any of those purity seals, the kind of little wax coin, you're going to go through the same color as well. Now the chest eagle is slightly different again, so it's actually Screamer Pink mixed with a little bit of Corn Red. I just grabbed the air Corn Red that was on my desk, but normal Corn Red is just fine. And we're going to use this to block in the chest kind of symbol, whatever chest color it is for the Imperial Fists. Whatever, it can be Aquillas, it can be, there's loads of different things it can be, but I always do them in the same color so they all match each other. So Screamer Pink mixed with Corn Red and block in that beautiful chest symbol. From here, Mephiston Red is used. Sometimes you won't use this because I'm doing the third company of the Imperial Fists. I've decided to add red in, that being their color scheme for shoulder trim and stuff on basic Marine. So on the Thunderhammer and Stormshield Terminators, I decided why not use the red here. You could just paint it all yellow if you wanted to then when you go back to the beginning of painting. I like the red. Steel Legion Drab and mixed with White Scar is actually the base coat for all of the scroll work. So that's all of the parchment on all of the purity steels. Plus he's got a scroll symbol across his right shoulder pad. And anywhere else where there's any kind of paperwork or tassels or anything like that that you want to do in the parchment, this is the base color that you shall use. Basilicanum grey contrast was the color of choice for all of the kind of Crux Terminatuses that see the symbol on his shoulder pad, his left shoulder pad, the symbol across his shield. He also has one on his knee, and on this particular guy, both of his kind of hip pieces of armor also have these kind of symbols. So this guy is bedecked in these kind of stone colored symbols. Steel or lead belcher or whatever you want to use. I'm using steel from Army Painter these days. I find it to be very, very good for base coating in that kind of gunmetal color. But if you've got lead belcher, just use that. And then block in the rest of the Thunderhammer head, both power pack, the big sledgy bit on the end. And then I've done the loop at the end, but I've left basically the lines top and bottom of the handle. So I can use greedy gold. Once again, if you've got Retributor Armor gold, use that. But I am playing around with the Army Painter paints a little bit more and finding them quite to my liking. So I'm going to continue playing around with them for the next couple of weeks. I'm using this to block in anywhere where there should be some gold detail, which on Imperial Fists for me isn't as much as other chapters because yellow and gold together don't really work all that well. They don't look fantastic, so I prefer sticking to silvers. Now, apart from the yellow armor, everything else is now going to get a shade with Nuln Oil. So we're going to darken down that helmet, obviously the chest aquila, the parchment, purity seal, the entire Thunderhammer, all those bits and pieces are going to get knocked down with a coat of black. While that shade was drying, I also did decide to do up the base. Don't worry about the base, it's not the focus of today's video, but it does look pretty cool. So deep grey and ash grey, so Dawnstone and whatever the one up from Dawnstone is, I can't remember now. Administratum grey. Could be the alternate ones. And I'm just using these as the mid-tone and highlight for all of those pure Crux Terminatuses. So the symbol on shield, shoulder pad, knee, hips. You're going to follow that through. I did actually go an extra step that I didn't show in the video with a tiny touch of white for those corners again, exactly like I did with the yellow armor, just edges and stuff. I don't want to go crazy, but I just wanted to kind of make it look kind of sharp and poppy. From here, it's time to very carefully layer up the chest aquila. Now, like I said, it's Screamer pink mixed with corn red, and then basically all you do is add a little bit of Screaming Skull into that mix, do a mid-tone, and then it's pure Screaming Skull for the highlight on it, and that's it. For the red, Mephiston, Evil Sons, Wall Rider, my favorite trio, the Tree Amigos, the one I use in a lot of videos because they're so good. And I'm going to use this to highlight the trim on the shield. And then you may notice that the helmet is now kind of red with a white stripe going down the middle of it. That's the Sergeant scheme for Terminators. So we did that. So the same red steps I'm taking with this shield here with those three colors, I'm using to highlight up the kind of left and right sides of the Terminator armored helmet as well. Going back to you Shapty Bone or Screaming Skull or whatever kind of bone or parchmenty style color that you have, to do a quick highlight on all of that parchment, all the purity seal wrappers and stuff like that across the model. Make sure they're done, and don't forget the symbol across his right shoulder pauldron as well, and get that highlighted. I did his tilt shield in black. Maybe I should have done it in yellow now that I'm thinking about it. Not sure if the black is selling the way I wanted to. I will be adding a transfer to it later on. Maybe that will help out, but if I could go back to the very beginning right now, I probably would have done that tilt shield in yellow, but what are you going to do? So I've added the transfers, I painted in the eye lenses, and that brings us pretty much to a close of painting up this awesome new Terminator. Here he is standing next to an original Terminator, and as you can see, there's quite a size and bulk difference between both the models. I love the older models, but there's something definitely more imposing about the new ones. You want a Terminator to feel a lot bigger and a lot kind of chunkier, especially when he's standing next to other like Primaris Marines and stuff like that. You want it to feel and look like a Terminator. And I think this guy definitely sells that very well. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two about painting Imperial Fist Terminators. You enjoyed this video, and make sure that you like, comment, and please do subscribe. Thank you guys so much for sticking around at the end. I'll see you in the next one.